Om. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. So we are in Kathopanishad part 6 verse number 9. We were looking at न सन्दृशे तिष्ठति रूपमस्य न चक्षुषा पश्यति कश्चनैनं हृदा मनीषा मनसाभिक्लुप्तो य एतद्विदुरमृतास्ते भवन्ति. It said that न सन्दृशे तिष्ठति रूपमस्य न चक्षुषा पश्यति कश्चनैनं, that the form of that infinite reality is not seen, and we cannot hold the form by our eyes, and it can be sussed out, intuited, or you can have a direct experience of it only by controlling the senses, controlling the mind and the intellect, and having enfolded, dissolved the senses into the mind, mind into the intellect, and the intellect into the silent consciousness, the silent space, the silent mind. And how do you do that? Through meditation. So continuously meditating, the self reveals itself. When we use these words, reveal and self is known, or it seems like I put the laptop on, the Zoom on, and you reveal yourself to me on the Zoom app. Huh? Is it like this that the self reveals itself to the self? No. But the only way we can communicate is the self reveals itself to the self. So which self? The chota I. To him, the big I, bada I, reveals itself. Which one is the big I? The one who is undisturbed, the one who is the overseer, the one who is the continuous, constant witnessing consciousness. And which is the chota I? The one, I'm the father, I'm the mother, I'm the body, I'm the breather, I'm the this, I'm that. That is the chota I. Okay. Or this is one way of putting. Another way of putting it, the chota I is the witnessing consciousness, and the bada I, the absolute I, is the infinite consciousness without any parameters. See? So none of the senses have any jurisdiction, have not got any capability, don't have the capacity to illuminate the self. But the self, as if reveals itself, not as if also, it reveals itself. When, as I said last week, when the senses, the mind and the intellect are all quiet. So what should be our sadhana? Well, that will be given in our next verse. So before we have done the bhashya for this one, isn't it? So the next verse will be the sadhana, or what happens next. Yada panchavatishtante, yada panchavatishtante, jnanani manasa saha, jnanani manasa saha, buddhischa na vicheshtati, buddhischa na vicheshtati, tamahuh paramam gatim, tamahuh paramam gatim. So in this way, here it says, together. Yada panchavatishtante jnanani manasa saha buddhischa na vicheshtati tamahuh paramam gatim. Yada, then, panchavatishtante, when the five senses, or the five, what are the senses called? The five organs of knowledge. The five senses, the organs of knowledge, tishtante jnanani manasa saha. So they come to rest. Where do the five senses come to rest? They come to rest in the mind. That means they are not looking outwards, they have become introvert. They have withdrawn from the world. And then next one, jnanani manasa saha. Saha means with. And with what? With the mind. So the five senses along with the mind have come to rest. Why they have said it like this? That's why mind is also called as the sixth sense. Why? Because mind cannot function if there are no gross or subtle senses. The stimuli from the senses are the ones which go and make the thoughts in the mind. It keeps the mind activated. So whether it is the subtle senses or it is the gross senses. In the dream it's the subtle senses, in the gross, in the waking world it's the gross senses. No, but Swamiji, I don't dream. But you imagine. If you imagine in the waking plane, you are using your subtle senses. Then, buddhischa na vicheshtati. And so, first the senses along with the mind become rest. When they have rested, intellect cannot work because it needs data in order to function. I think this verse unknowingly I already explained in the last class. Intellect cannot function if there is no data available. It's like it wants to put everything into these different files, but there is no data coming in to be sorted out into the files. What will intellect do? It will twiddle its thumb. Baito chalo bhai. Let me get the salary without doing anything. And thus, when it has got nothing to do, it becomes calm, it becomes quiet, it becomes serene, it becomes introverted. And you have not gone to sleep. So now what has happened? Senses plus the mind plus the intellect all have become silent. All have become silent. And this is buddhischa na vicheshtati tamahu paramam gatim. And the silencing of all these three faculties, the senses with which you interact with the world, with the mind with which you function through the senses or function in the imaginary world, and the intellect which becomes convinced that the world is real, the senses, mind, and the past, present, and the three worlds, waking, dream, and deep sleep, all these are real, and therefore it wants to keep doing something. Now there is no data coming. All of them become quiet. The moment they become quiet, that is paramam gatim. That is the ultimate destination that one has reached. More clarification will be given, but at this moment just understand this. So our goal is what? Our goal is not I want to realize, I want to realize. Yes, once you have said that I want to realize, it's enough. You don't have to keep repeating, I want to realize, I want to realize. How many malas have you done? How many rosaries you have done? 15 malas. What about what? I want to realize, I want to realize. Nothing is going to happen. Then what is to be done? Only once you know that you want moksha, you want liberation, you want to realize, you also intellectually know that you are the eternal self. Thinking eternal, I am the eternal self will never be equal to being the eternal self. Then what has to be done? The intellect also has to quieten down. To quieten down the intellect, you have to quieten down the mind. To quieten down the mind, you have to quieten down the senses. So keep this focus in your mind day in and day out, from moment to moment, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, month to month, year to year. Our focus is remain undisturbed. That is the poise that I keep talking about. Must be in the poise, where the senses, the mind and the intellect are in complete integrity. That integrity cannot be gained if the senses are outwards. So masters say, expose yourself to silence again and again and again and again. Today I met one person at a funeral, and he is a doctor. He says, Swamiji, he is married, he has got children, everything. But he looks at me and he says, Swamiji, I don't know why I got married. I don't know why I got kids. I enjoy my own company. I said, good, you enjoy your company. How did you decide to be a single? I had also challenges. No, but I enjoy my company. And I told my wife, if any invitations come, because doctors keep getting invitations, she says, if we get invitations, my standing instruction is, I am not coming. And if people want to come home, my standing instruction is, I don't want them. Then what are you going to do? I am enjoying my own silence. I am enjoying my own company. I don't want to interact with people. He has come to that point. So wonderful. While living, while doing everything, still has his clinic, he is a consultant, everything is going on. See, nobody is going to come and tell you how to do it. We can give you general principles, but you have to live it in your life. Nobody can live it for you. Nobody can fine-tune you as much as you can fine-tune yourself. And how is that? Regular meditation, regular living in the world in such a manner that the senses, mind and intellect are at peace, are silent. Let's read the bhashya for this one. I've spoken too much. Yada yasmin kale swavishayebyah nivartitani atmanyeva pancha jnanani jnanarthatvat श्रोत्रादीनि इंद्रियाणि ज्ञानान् मुच्यन्ते अवतिष्ठन्ते सह मनसा यद अनुगतानि तेन संकल्पादि व्यावृतेनान्तः कर्णेन बुद्धिश्चाध्यवसाय लक्षणा न विचेष्टति स्वव्यापारेषु न विचेष्टते न व्याप्रियते तामाहुः परमां गतिम्. This is one sentence. There are no breaks. One sentence. That reminds me, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is one sentence. In Sanskrit, with Sandhi rules, they have joined the words, and you can, without any break, the word goes almost, if this is the book, written small, it goes on and on. Almost one paragraph, 7-8 lines is one word. And then you must know the Sandhi rules, the breaking of the words, where to break. If you break at the wrong place, the meaning will be totally different. So you have to know where to break it so that the sense comes out of it. So here he says, ki, at that time, yada, then, यस्मिन् काले स्वविषयेभ्यो निवर्तितानि आत्मन्येव पंच ज्ञानानि, that then, it's continuing from the previous verse, then each sense, it starts withdrawing from its own world of senses. The eyes withdraw from the color and form, the ears withdraw from the sound, nose withdraws from the smell, and so on, tongue from the taste, etc. And they withdraw. And thus all the 5 jnanendriya, organs of knowledge, and being of the nature of knowledge, because they gain knowledge at the sensory, at the objective level, therefore they are called jnanendriya. Indriya means senses, jnan means knowledge, the organs of knowledge. And then what happened? Jnanarthatva shrotradini indriyani jnanani muchyante apatishtante saha manasa yad anugatani. So then he says that along with the mind, and who is that mind? That which functions along with the senses. Senses cannot function without the mind, and mind cannot function without the senses, gross or subtle, remember. Anuvartante, and then here it says, tena sankalpadi vyavritena antah karnena, and sankalpa means sankalpa is a thought. So along with the thoughts, with the business of thoughts, business of thinking, the mind functions. And now it has withdrawn from the business of thinking because the senses have withdrawn from the business of getting the stimuli from the world. And therefore, both the senses and the mind, they become silent and go back to the antahkaran. Antahkaran, what is it called? What are the 4 components of the antahkaran? Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. Mind, intellect, memory, and ego. All are thoughts. I think I already mentioned this last week. All are thoughts, but functional difference. Mind is about memories, intellect is about conviction and decision, mana, buddhi, chitta. Chitta is, mind is fickle, intellect is conviction and decision, chitta is memories, and ahankar is I, which owns all the other 3. And where do they go? They all go back. So the senses, along with the mind, along with the atma, along with the intellect, they become all silent. And when they become silent, where do they go back? They go back to the atma, they go back to their source. Meaning, what? That is, I retrace my steps. They can't go anywhere. they just become quiet. And where they become quiet, because see, where does the wave, when it becomes quiet, where does the wave go back? Into its source, into itself. The wave goes, which is nothing but water, when it merges back in the water, merges back into the water. It's foolish statement, but when we look at the water as a wave at some form, then you say that it went back to the water. But actually what is happening? The water is being water, that's all. It was always water, but just for, if the child asks or someone, look, that wave is going back, it is becoming quieter, it is becoming, it's not as harsh as the earlier one. It is so gentle, it is so thappad nahi mari. So it's just a matter of speaking. That it goes and gets established in the Atma, and then it says, buddhish chadhya vasaya lakshana na vicheshtati swavyapareshu na vicheshtate na vyapriyate tamahu paramam gatim. And thereafter, even that intellect which is of the nature of conviction, it also withdraws from its business of sorting out, withdraws from the business of judgment, withdraws from the business of biasness, withdraws from the business of decision making, withdraws from the business of whatever else the intellect does. I've given you the main, or everything else comes under it. And it also withdraws from all these activities, because there is no data. It's not written here, but I'm adding that to it, to the sentence. So here it is told that navya tamahu paramam gatim. When senses are not functioning, mind is not functioning, intellect is not functioning. Put it in another way, when the senses have become quiet, the mind has become quiet, the intellect has become quiet, that state itself is called as the ultimate reality. Wow, that's it. Yeah, that's it. All I have to do is quieten down everything. Then Swamiji, I can take alcohol, very quickly my mind will become quiet. Intellect will become quiet. Eyes will stop seeing everything, nothing. Or I can take drugs. This is where everyone wants a quiet mind, but they go the wrong way. They are becoming dependent. They are outsourcing. Today is the world of outsourcing. So they outsource it. And then they don't know how to take the power back, because they outsourced. Then they become addicted. Be addicted to your own essential nature. अरे मैं हूं, कर लो जो करना है. And the bliss of silence. You all know bliss of silence. Everyone, every day, are experiencing it in the sleep. Every day. But the difference between the senses and the mind and the intellect becoming quiet and leading to that state of self-realization can be confused with samadhi. Samadhi is also very similar. Then what is the difference between the samadhi and the state of realization? Tell someone, if not experientially, at least intellectually.
When we come out of samadhi, the world is still there, Swamiji.
आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर. Huh? You understood what she said? That when we come out of meditation, if the world is still there, we have been in samadhi. But if we have come to the state of complete quietness at the sensory, mental, and intellectual level and come to abide in the self, eventually, when mind unfolds again, but now you don't see the world, you see the self. This is the difference. But this quietness of the mind, senses, and the intellect, it happens where else? One is, here it is told in this verse that that state where all these three are quiet is the state of the ultimate state that everyone is seeking. That is your essential nature. Second, we told was samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, not savikalpa samadhi. Nirvikalpa samadhi is the again through whatever means you have taken, whether it is this exercise, withdraw your senses, withdraw your mind, withdraw your intellect, or you have taken the Kundalini marg, or you have taken the Japa marg, or you have taken the Hatha Yoga marg, whichever way you are coming to that silencing of the senses and the mind and the intellect, if that silencing is only temporary, then it is samadhi. Then it is samadhi. And how do we know it is samadhi? Because eventually you will, how long will you sit in silence? Eventually you will be pushed out of that. Something just like you get triggered out of dream into the waking, similarly you get triggered out of the samadhi to come back into the waking or the dream state. If that is happening, it was only a temporary state of abidance. And that is samadhi. If there is no trigger and if there is no whatever, you continue to remain undisturbed by the withdrawal of the senses, mind, and intellect, and the involvement of the senses, mind, and intellect. It's not making a difference to you anymore. Why? Because the self, which is all pervasive, the self which is one without a second, the self which is of the nature of light, in that self, duality cannot exist. Senses work in duality, mind works in duality, intellect works in duality. Self is transcendental to duality. It's not available, simple as that. That will be the vision of the water towards all the waves from inside. Why, kya hai? They are saying about waves. I can't see any wave. I can see only myself. See? And there is one more state where the senses, mind, and the intellect become quiet and immersed or withdrawn. And that is the state of sleep. But the state of sleep, yes, you do go back to yourself, but you don't know that. You are ignorant of your abidance in sleep. You're ignorant. In samadhi, you go, you come back. In sleep, you go, but you don't know. See? So in this manner, recognize the problem our seers of yore, they found this. They are abiding in their own self. How do they communicate? How do you communicate that which cannot be communicated? How do you articulate that which cannot be articulated? How can you speak about something which has got no form and no qualities and no attributes? How do you talk about it? So the teacher, the master, he is also at his wit's end to communicate it to the teacher. So he says, I cannot, just like in Keno Upanishad, this is how I learned, this is how I'm teaching, problem is yours, you learn and you come to your own conclusion. But that conclusion must correspond to what the scriptures are saying, and it must correspond to what the masters are saying. But you have to walk the path. You have to jump into the water and learn to swim. You have to walk the path. You have to find your own refinements. You have to find where you are getting lost in the inner world. And for that is required a very, very alert and vigilant living. That alert and vigilant living is not only in the class, it is every moment. And that alert and vigilant living, it can be done out of fear, that I don't want to go the wrong way. Then you will get exhausted very quickly, because fear will exhaust you. You are always on the edge. You are always afraid, looking around. I have not realized what if the world catches me again? You see? So we have to be alert and vigilant every moment, not towards the world. If you are alert and vigilant towards the world, world will always instill fear in you. Duality will always instill fear in you. Either desire or fear. Then where should be our attention? What are we alert about then? We are not alert about the senses. We are not alert about the mind. We are not alert about the intellect. We are alert about being the self. With full conviction as well as understanding that what the scripture is saying, what the Lord Death is saying here is, if the senses, mind and intellect become zero, that is the state of abidance. That is the state of truth. Then if that can be gained at so many junctures in your daily life, then where am I going wrong in my approach? Where am I going wrong? That will only come through self-introspection. If you're committed to the truth, only then it will become clear. And even with more gusto, with even more inspiration, I will become available to that which is my essence. Then you will become single-pointed. Then the bhav will come. And that bhav is what? That bhav is, intellect has that bhav. The reflected sun in the water and the original sun, they are of the similar nature. Correct? Then why did the reflected sun, that is the reflected self, that is the I in the intellect, why is it not recognizing if it is the same as the original? Because lost in the data. Lost in the data. Overwhelmed by the data. Another way to put it. Overwhelmed by the data. And unknowingly, it starts judging the data, it starts sorting the data, it starts collecting the data, and before it knows, it's lost the plot. And the moment, as we said before, the previous verse also said, As the senses and the mind become quiet, the data availability is becoming scarce and scarce and scarce for the intellect to function. And a point comes that there is no data available, and the reflection, I'm giving you an example, that's the way only I can communicate. Then when the data becomes less and less, meaning the waves in the water become less and less and less, the reflection automatically appears because it was already there. You just couldn't see it because of the waves, because of the froth. If this, what we have just said, is clear, now apply. All you have to do is not nothing rocket science, but it requires extreme joyful alertness, joyful vigilance. Like this gentleman said, Swamiji, I enjoy my company. I just want to sit quiet and keep contemplating. Just want to be in silence, that's all. How wonderful. And this is called, when there is no data available in the for the intellect to associate with. So what was the reflected sun doing before? It was getting broken up and reflecting in many ways. That is subject, object, subject, object, subject, object in every thought. Ahamidam, ahamidam, ahamidam. Now, thoughts are becoming less, so aham, idam is also becoming less. They coexist together. One cannot exist without the other. The I cannot exist without the subject cannot exist without the object. So they are also becoming less frequent. And when there is no idam, when there is no object, then the true nature of the aham, the true nature of the, put the audio off please, then the true nature of the aham reveals itself. And that is called, the masters say, that is the poise, that is the intuitive ability, that is the bhav. Bhav is that intuition which builds up as the data is becoming less and less and less and less. Where will the reflected sun go once there is no nothing to illuminate? There is nothing to associate. Because of that association, it was taking roles as the waker, as the dreamer, as the sleeper, as the seer, as the hearer, as the toucher, as the taster, as the smeller, as the thinker, as the feeler, as the knower, as the experiencer. Now no data. Now no data. What will happen to that? You will go back to yourself. You become available to yourself. Try this exercise. I gave you one of these days. Make your room pitch dark and remain away. Sit with eyes open, like an owl, उल्लू की तरह. आँख खोल के बैठे रहो. Talk, 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 talk. Ooh, ooh. We will not say ooh, we'll say om, and then withdraw from everything. But keep your eyes open. Just remain silent. If it is pitch dark, you cannot see any object. You cannot see your body also. Stand still or sit still. It's very eerie. फिर डॉन बॉस को लेके जाऊंगा सबको. I'll take off and then and I will walk into the rooms. You will be more scared. In the middle of the night, I'll come. At that time, there is no fear, my dear. That time only you are. The fear is because of now, before I was interacting with the world, now there is nothing to interact. Now what? Oh my God, I am losing it. My mind is going away. Oh la 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 la. Remain in poise. Remain in poise. Slowly, slowly, through regular meditation and coming to that silence, build up the stamina of your ability to remain in silence. Expose yourself, senses, mind, and intellect to silence. Maybe it is 30 seconds, then it is 1 minute, then it is 2 minutes, then it is 4 minutes, then it is 5 minutes, then it is 10 minutes. I guarantee before it reaches 5 minutes, if you are monitoring it somewhere, if you are monitoring it, you have lost the plot. But after coming out, sometimes 5 minutes is too long. If you do it for 3 minutes, everything is over. Some Mahatmas say that. Expose yourself again and again and again and again, thought free. So that is what is told here. And so how do we, now the next verse is about the yoga. It's about the methodology again. And here it says, Tam yogamiti manyante, tam yogamiti manyante, sthiramindriya dharanam, sthiramindriya dharanam, apramattastada bhavati, apramattastada bhavati, yogo hi prabhavapyayau, yogo hi prabhavapyayau. Together, tam yogamiti manyante, sthiramindriya dharanam, apramattastada bhavati, yogo hi prabhavapyayau. It says, tam yogamiti manyante. They call it, manyante, they call it yoga. What is called as yoga? What does yoga means? It comes from the yuj dhatu. Yuj dhatu means that which unites. So now you already seen quietening down of senses, mind and intellect leads to your union with yourself. And it's a unionless union because it was already there. All you have done is remove the imaginary obstacles from in between. That's all. Huge. It is the union of the self with the self. So this is what they call it as yoga. What is that? Sthiram indriya dharanam. Sthiram means quietening down. Indriya means the senses. Dharana means the control of the senses. And apramattas tada bhavati. Apramattas means free from the changes in the mind, free from the fluctuations of the mind, free from the turbulations of the mind, agitations of the mind, restlessness of the mind. Remember what we told you, the 5 conditions of mind? Can someone repeat it? What are the 5 conditions of the mind according to Patanjali Yoga Sutra?
Modamana,
Mudhamana is the dull mind.
vikshiptamana,
First comes Kshiptamana.
vikshiptamana,
Kshiptamana is the agitated or restless mind. The next one,
vikshiptamana,
Vikshiptamana is the distracted mind.
ekagramana,
Ekagramana is the single pointed mind.
no mind.
Niruddhamana.
Niruddha.
Niruddhamana is no mind. So out of these are the only 5 conditions of the mind. There is no 6th one. How many? 10, 15, 20,000 years ago this Patanjali Yoga Sutra was written. Or how deeply they studied the mind, the thoughts. Okay. So out of these 5 conditions of the mind, only the ekagra chit, only the single pointed, focused, concentrated mind is conducive and the moment you become single pointed, even for 30 seconds, 10 seconds on one thought, say Om, automatically for that 30 seconds you are not agitated. Then it comes to 1 minute, you are focused on Om. For 1 minute you are not agitated by other thoughts. Keep building up the stamina. Once you learn how to build up the stamina with a mantra, then you are taught how to build up the stamina by dissolving the mantra also, which means how to build up the stamina of silence. That I'm using the word stamina of silence. Some say increase the gap between the thoughts. That is also same thing. It's just different language. But first, straight away I ask you to remain silent, like in the Vipassana they do. Some of them go crazy and they come because they forced themselves because someone else did it, so I will do it. It was not an inner calling. If the inner calling was there, you would have started preparing long ago, many years ago, not just months, many years ago you would have started. And now I am ready. Okay, that is a good platform. It is a good environment where I can just dive deep into myself. But coming from the buzz of the world and a fight with the wife and busyness of the children and frustration from the boss, and you come into Vipassana, oh my God, you are inviting a disaster. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It must be. And sometimes what happens, if you know I'm going to do this only once in my lifetime, then it is okay. Go, come and do it. But those who want it on a permanent basis, then it must be done in small doses and continuously for a long period of time in their life. And that is called alertness and vigilance. Every moment. not towards the world but towards the self. So yeah, apramatta, free from the fluctuations of the mind, and tada bhavati yogo hi prabhavapyayau. Then yoga, see this, when we are under the influence of the mind, when we are under the influence of our thinking, when we are under the influence of our convictions, when we are under the influence of our senses, mind and intellect, and using willpower to withdraw the senses, withdraw the mind and withdraw the intellect, it is temporary. It will not be permanent, because I is still there. I is still there. You have to sublimate, not control. Yes, you can do controlling to jumpstart the process initially. But the moment control comes, immediately let go and shift your attention. The only reason you are controlling is so that you can get, just like you jumpstart a car when it has become flat. So you jumpstart so that you can get a sense of withdrawal from the world and experience the inner bliss. Once the inner bliss, which can be only experienced in silence, once that is experienced, now focus in that direction, not outward direction. You know, like when someone's heart fail is there, so what do? They bring that, क्या बोलते हैं, vibrator, क्या, defibrillator, something like that they call it. Defibrillator. They come, and that is the jump starting of the heart, not the car. And the whole body shakes. My God. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times, and then the heart begins. Now that person is not going to be whole life on the defibrillator. That was only to jumpstart the process which had broken down. And once the connection is made, it starts all over again. Similarly, the jump start is, maybe if that is what works for you, take the control. I don't want to get involved in the world. And the moment you experience even a little bit of silence, a little bit of, go in. Don't keep jump starting all life. Jump starting all life is nirvikalpa samadhi. Going out, I don't want to be there. Okay, I go in. So because you don't want to be in the outside world, therefore you want to go for nirvikalpa samadhi. The day that nirvikalpa samadhi becomes the reason you go into nirvikalpa samadhi is because you want you. Everyone begins that way, but they get lost. They get lost in siddhis, they get lost in validating the world, or they get lost in the mechanics of withdrawing, rather than remaining the witness of the whole process. See, it's a very fine line. As our master says, the razor's edge. Here he says, unless and until, here he says that quietened senses itself is yoga. Huh? Tam yogamiti manya sthiram indriya dharanam. Forget about, now I'm telling you in a different manner. We are not talking about becoming focused on the self. We are not talking about anything. He says the first thing, you quieten the senses, the yoga will begin. They call it yoga. What do they call it? Call yoga? Quietening of the senses. Quietening of the senses. And what happens when the senses become quiet? Where do your senses normally go? Tell me. Just don't answer straight away, whatever comes to your mind. Think. Where do your senses normally gravitate towards? All the five senses, including the mind. Where do they gravitate?
Something that we like.
Ragadvesh, like and dislike, right? Huh? And we know it is not right, yet by the force from within or the habit, the senses are continuously again and again going in that direction. The roasted peanuts are so wonderful. And then after, oh my God, I should not have eaten. Oh, soup, oh, wonderful. Oh, I should not have eaten so much. When you know, then why did you? This is called in Sanskrit pramad. Remember, in Devi Mahatmyam, what did we say pramad was? An expression of tamas. Tamas expresses as nidra, pramad, alasya and pramad. Sleep, alasya is laziness, procrastination, and pramad is inadvertence, repeating the same mistake again and again. And what is the mistake we are repeating again and again? Our eyes see the child, immediately we become the mother. Eyes see the husband, immediately we become the wife. Eyes are open, immediately we see duality. Even after the satsang, same thing happens. Pramad, a different level I'm explaining now. That New Year's resolution was in that retreat example, it was okay. Here I am telling right now. What is pramad? Continuously think right now. You think, are you giving importance to the words that are coming, or are you giving importance to the witness that is in whose presence the words are being heard? If you are giving importance to the person or the words, pramad. Pramad means habitual default setting, that I have to listen, I have to nod, I have to agree, I know I am understanding, or if I don't understand, I'll ask, or I don't know if it is the right place to ask the question. I hope Swamiji doesn't get angry, so don't ask. Pramad. And every time you think the same way. Which way? Outward way, never the inward way. And what is the talk about? Going in. What is the talk about? Silencing everything. So this pramad of the senses will be, the eyes are again and again only seeing the spectrum of colors and forms that they are accustomed to see. The ears are again and again accustomed to or associate with the spectrum of sound from whatever the decibels that you can hear. Have you ever thought, how would the divine see? How will the Devi see? How will the Lord see? He also has eyes. Ishvara is there. Brahma is there. Vishnu is there. Shiva is there. Devis are there. They also have eyes. They also have five senses. They also have mind. How she must be thinking? And she is saying in the Devi Mahapuran, Devi Mahatmya, that I am Shumbhu Nishumbu also, I am all the Rakshasas also. And joyfully she is killing everyone. That was my talk today at funeral. Only grieving, as if it has, because the whole world is doing it, so we have to do it. Grief is only because of attachment. If after all these classes and satsangs, if we have become aware that Atma, that was the topic, Atma doesn't die, cannot die, it is constant, it is infinite. Soul cannot die, because he goes from this body, it will take another body. Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya. Body cannot die because it becomes unmanifest into five elements and again becomes combined together and again new body is formed. So mara kaun? Then who died? And stupidly becomes so emotional and so distraught, and my life is crying and crying and crying and crying. It's only the ego who has lost all the support now, because 70, 60 years it was together with that person. The ego is feeling the loss. Now who will make the tea for me? Get out of this before it grabs you. Abhi bhi time hai. Warning. So let's see what the verses say. The Bhashya says, what's the time? Time hai. So here it is saying, where are we? 159, 160. The last part he said that yogo hi prabhav api yayau, meaning that yoga itself is creation, creation, and the yoga itself is destruction, meaning look at the waves, all the molecules of water are coming together and getting separated, again coming together, again getting separated, again coming together, again getting separated. Your senses are doing the same, coming together with the colors and form, again getting separated, again getting together with the colors and form, again getting separated. Same thing is with all the senses. Same thing with the mind. Mind is getting associated with the thought, then getting separated, no thought, then again getting associated with the thought, then again there is no thought. You have to recognize union is everything. Self is everything. Yoga means self. Self is everything. Coming together is also self, and going away from each other is also self. because self is infinite, self is all pervasive. Water is everything. When the water comes together, it forms a wave. When it goes back, okay, it settles down. It's called water. Here it says, तम ईदृशीं तदस्थां योगम इति मन्यन्ते वियोगमेव संतम. That condition, avastha means that condition which is actually viyog, which is actually separation, is actually yoga. Answer, sarvanartha sanyoga viyoga lakshana hi yamavastha yoginaha, because that the yogi, his condition is that in all ways and manners, he withdraws from all unwanted union. He withdraws from all unwanted union. So if you want silence, what will be the unwanted union? The unwanted union will be the senses must not get involved in the world. The mind must not get involved. So then silence will come. एतस्याम ही अवस्थायाम अविद्या अध्यारोपण वर्जित स्वरूप प्रतिष्ठ आत्मा. In this condition itself, in this condition alone, where the senses, and which is including the mind and intellect, they have become separated from their stimuli and become calm. Only in that condition he is saying etasyam hi avasthayam avidyad adhyaropana, and the self, it becomes free of the superimposition of the ignorance that has come upon it. That superimposition of ignorance expresses as duality. That ignorance expresses as union of the senses with their stimuli. Listen carefully. That ignorance alone is expressing as a union of the senses with the stimuli. So each sensory organ with its stimuli, then mind with its thoughts, intellect, aham, if we take it intellect as aham vididam, that is ignorance. Is the effect of ignorance, or ignorance is expressing as that. But when we are quietening down everything, there is no possible of union of the senses with the stimuli. There is no possibility of the aham and idam coming together, because everything is quietening down. So it is said, as a result of it, the self remains established in itself. Sthiram indriya dharanam, sthiram achalam indriya dharanam, bahya antahkarananam dharanam iti arthaha. He says that condition where the indriyas have become sthir means quiet, undisturbed. And here he explains what does sthiram mean. Sthiram means indriya dharanam sthiram achalam, indriya dharanam bahyanta karananam. So he says that the quietened senses, it means that those agitated sensory senses, or those fickle senses, which includes the mind, they are continuously getting activated by something or the other, the senses and the mind. So to be withdrawn from all those disturbances. So so all disturbances inside and outside. Inside is in the mind, outside is at the sensory level. Dharanam iti arthaha. Taking it all as I. Withdrawal, coming to the silence, coming where the self reveals. From that point onwards, everything is I. Then there is no question of I want to control again, I want to withdraw again, I don't want to get involved again. There's no dialogue like this going in again. Because yoga means coming to your essential nature, and essential nature in its nature is one without a second. There's nothing else apart from the absolute self. And in that self, involvement and withdrawal is inclusive. Then there is no one saying, I want to withdraw, I don't want to get involved. This will only happen if you go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But if it has really clicked, then everything is every moment is a yoga. Every moment is a yoga. Apramattah pramadavarjitah samadhanam pratinityam yatnavanstada tasmin kale yada eva pravritta yogo bhavatiti samarthyad avagamyate. At that time, that seeker, apramattah means that he becomes fault proof. He becomes a default proof. He becomes so alert, so in tune, so available, so vigilant that he doesn't fall into any pattern of thinking. He doesn't fall into any pattern of thinking. Falling into pattern of thinking is called default. Default is an expression of tamas, inertia. You don't want to be alert, therefore default thinking is coming. You don't want to be alert to this moment, therefore pramad is happening. Therefore memories are clicking in. Therefore the mind and the senses go here and there in the predestined way. Let them go. That's their job. But what about you? Here we are not talking about pramad only of the senses. This movement of the senses and the movement of the thoughts in the mind is not possible just because there is mind and senses. There is someone behind, an intelligent principle that you are. Pramad of the I will be just as the pramad of the senses is to get involved in the thing, and every time you drink a tea and you say, it's not nice, it's not boiled, it's only dip tea with only half a spoon of sugar. I like ginger boiled and bhak bakri. That is pramad. What is pramad of I? The pramad of I is to associate with idam, with that. Aham idam. So subject, the pramad The inadvertence, the default setting of the subject is to associate with object. Alertness means subject is complete in itself. And when it discovers itself as complete in the silence of the objectivity, and then again, because the nature of the mind and senses is that after they become silent, they will become activated again. When they get activated again, then this self doesn't see that as a problem. It sees that it is me alone. And it is a thought-free recognition. Then it may articulate. That articulation is called the scriptures. That articulation is called the speech of the realized masters, like Amrit Anubhav. So what does it mean that he becomes a default proof? Meaning he remains, it means here it says, yat apramattah pramadavarjitah, till here I explained just now. Then what does it mean to be free of pramad, free of default setting, free of habitual repeating the same mistake? Samadhanam pratinityam Yatnavan means he is ever in the effort or attentive or alert or vigilant towards what? Samadhan, towards contentment of the mind. My senses will quieten only when they are content. You can force them to come back, but they will go back with greater force if you are not given them something which is more pleasing. Like we did the meditation in the retreat. You give the mind a better source of indulgence, that is the form of the goddess or form of the Lord rather than the world. These are initial preparations. See? If we can come to contemplate on the self, the mind is continuously yatnataha. यहाँ पे लिखा ना yatnavan. Yatnavan means continuous efforts, continuous in tune. The mind is continuously in tune with the self, with the source, with the essence. And what is that? What is that essence? He has come to know. I can never come to know it. Aprapya manasa saha. The mind can never come to know the truth. Then what can I do if I can't come to know? Then there's no point. I should not try anything. No. Then what you should do? Come to samadhan. Samadhan is contentment. At this moment, I am completely content. Nothing to lose, nothing to gain, nothing to lose. Nowhere to go, nowhere to reach. I'm complete. And remember when we did some text, we did Vivek Chudamani, in that comes, what is the four qualifications of a seeker: discrimination, vairagya, dispassion, shatka sampatti, and mumukshutva. So first was discrimination between the real and the unreal. That was the first one. Second was intense dispassion towards the world. And intense dispassion fuels the discrimination, and discrimination fuels the vairagya. But it is not sthir, it is not stable. Then how does it become stable? Why is it not becoming stable? Here it is given. It will become stable only when you practice samadhan, shatka sampatti, shama, dama, uparama, titiksha, shraddha, samadhan. These 6 steps you have to follow. 5 steps you have to follow to reach contentment. Control your senses, control your mind. This is what This is this verse: control your senses, control your mind. Then shama dama uparama, then the senses are not leaking out of the mind, is not leaking out of the senses. Then uparama, then titiksha, then still, even though you are not interested in the world, your mind is not going out into the world, out of the senses, yet sometimes the pains in the body, the weather, the heat, cold, hunger, thirst, from inner subconscious desires come up, remain steadfast. Titiksha, don't give in to them. How do you do that? That happily endure it, Swamiji says. Don't forcefully endure it, happily endure it. ठीक है, it's there. What can I do? Let it go. Then how do you do it? With Shraddha, with faith. Faith in what? Not faith in what is coming up from the subconscious. Faith in the truth. And then, as a result of these 5 steps, you are doing with faith, you are doing the control of senses. With faith, you are doing the control of mind, practicing control of mind, being alert towards it. With faith, you are practicing uparama. With faith, you are having titiksha or endurance, happy endurance. With faith, this will lead to samadhan, which is contentment. A content mind is a happy mind. And what is the nature of the Atma? Happiness. There you are. You are there. So he is ever alert towards the quietness of the mind. He is ever alert towards the dissolution of the mind rather than activation of the mind. And then tasmin kale yada eva pravritta yogo bhavatiti samarthyad avagamyate. And and when he gets involved in this type of yoga, on this type of path, where he is coming to a state of contentment, which is complete union, then when he enters into this state, or that state takes over him, in this way you must understand this sentence that has been given. Tasmat. Here it says one more thing. He says, nahi buddhyadi cheshta bhave pramad sambhavah asti. It says that once the senses and the mind have become quiet, then the intellect becomes quiet. And once the intellect becomes quiet, there is no possibility of pramad. There is no possibility of default living. It's a very big statement they are making here. Upanishad is making, Shankaracharya ji is making. Nahi buddhyadi cheshta abhave pramad sambhavah asti. Sambhava asti. It's not possible. What? Pramad is not possible. When it is not possible? When the intellect becomes quiet, pramad is not possible. And what is, I'll tell you another way. What does it mean to make, when they are saying that the intellect becomes quiet? When intellect becomes quiet, you are alert and awake in and through the waking dream and deep sleep. Because the waking dream and deep sleep is for the I. And they are hijacking him again and again. I'm not talking only waking state. The father, mother, daughter, sister hijack the I. Seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting hijack the I. The thoughts hijack the I in the waking. We are taking the bigger picture of a human life. And what is that? Waking, dream and deep sleep hijacks the I. Now I is alert and the waking, the dream and the deep sleep is unable to hijack the I. This is the steadiness of the I. This is the pramad, that I is no longer becoming the waker, dreamer or sleeper. It allows the waking, dream, sleep to come and go, but it is not becoming. And at this point where he is alert. So there is no question of appearance of waking, dream and deep sleep also. Because everything has become quiet. Everything has become unmanifest. Tasmat prag eva buddhyadi cheshtah apramado vidhiyate. Therefore, so here this is also very, very important point. And what they are saying is that instead of focusing on quietening your intellect, first understand why quiet intellect is important and then quieten the intellect. Because if intellect becomes quiet and you don't understand, it will lead to fear. It will lead to default, or it will lead to not wanting it any time again, and you will just be shunted back into the world, and you just will not want to go back again into the silence. Many people are afraid of silence. So here it's so very important point here. Tasmat prag eva, prag means before. Tasmat prag eva buddhyadi chesto pramada apramado. So, so when we practice, before the intellect becomes non-existent, before the intellect becomes absolutely quiet, before the I loses all association with any thought